I have been itching for a couple of days now, and not just a literal sense with my hands and my body, but I've been itching to talk about a show that I was waiting to hold off and try to get my full thoughts in and maybe rewatch the show at one point or another. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna let it rip and talk about High School of the Dead, a show that came out back in 2010 that officially turns 15 years old this year as of me recording this video. And it is a show I want to talk about, reflect upon, and I guess in a weird sort of way, praise upon, as this show was a really big cultural phenomenon when it came out back in 2010. And I'm not gonna lie when I say this. When I was like in my early infant stages of where I was only watching Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, and the likes of other weird, obscure anime back then, in around this time period of my life, High School of the Dead was one of the shows that I was recommended to on my table as a kid, and I remember the show pretty fondly because there are scenes and iconic moments of the show that still ring a bell, that ring super true to this day, that really trying to talk about this show is going to be a bit hard. So bear with me as I'm going to try my best to kind of break down High School of the Dead, tell you the influence that the show has gotten, and so on and so forth. Because again, I've been itching, putting my hands up like this, just wanting to talk about this for a while now, after the craziness that I had to went through and talk about prison school. And let's get to it, shall we? So, High School of the Dead was essentially, again, an anime that came out back in 2010 by Madhouse Studios. Yes, that Madhouse, the Mad Lads themselves, that gave us some pretty big animes that I think everyone should know at this point. And during the summer of 2010, there's some other big shows that came out that within that year, with I believe the second season of Black Butler, Shiki, and a ton of other shows that unfortunately I think for anyone who's watched anime from 2010, they may not recognize these shows. And honestly, I couldn't agree more. A lot of shows came out in 2010. It is really saturated. There are a lot of shows that weren't really popped off during this time period. Outside of a few exceptions, of course, because obviously in the spring we had Angel Beats, we had K-On!, we had the Kaiju World Maid Sama, the infamous Kisses, to name a few. Even the fall season with Ormo, The World God Only Knows, Bakuman, Panty and Stalker with Guard Belt, the first season was also around this time. And again, 2010 in a nutshell was filled with some really weird shows that came out that year, and a lot of shows that I could probably even talk about as, again, a lot of them has turned 15 this year per se. But High School of the Dead really stands out at the very top as the shows as a show that really is like the whole trend and the whole meal of like I'm 14 and this is deep kind of anime. You know what I'm saying? And believe me, the show is about as simplistic and as simple as it's gonna get. Because again, we're with a show being that it's about a zombie apocalypse and it's a bunch of high schoolers that are doing everything in their power to survive the zombie apocalypse in every way, shape, and form in the most creative ways possible, killing zombies and surviving. That's pretty much what you're gonna get at with High School of the Dead. And the reason I want to pop up what the show's all about first is because before High School of the Dead first came out, there were already anime shows of this liking that kind of went in this similar edgy, dark direction, but sometimes to a certain degree haven't really captured what really made it like super good or poppin'. And again, the shows that I've talked about that came out prior to High School of the Dead are shows like Elfenlied, which came out back in 2004, and is still one of the most referenced, most talked about shows to this day, despite the fact that it only had one anime adaptation under its belt. There is also the infamous Higurashi When They Cry, the first anime adaptation from 2006 by Studio Dean, a show that, again, I have praised the hell out of over the years. And then, of course, we have the infamous School Days, which prior to School Days, if anyone remembered this infamous show, this was a show that like a lot of people would basically watch, turn their brains off, and just essentially watch for the plot until we got the infamous final episode that really shook things in the holy shit, what the fuck just happened direction, more or less. And High School of the Dead, when comparing to some of the shows I've exampled prior, are shows that again you're gonna have the edginess into the show. The plot in the show, honestly and fairly speaking, when you watch the show, and again, even me watching back at some of the clips, it's really hard for me to really remember what the hell the plot of the show is. I'm gonna be honest with you, and I think that's the whole point. Is that this show is just It's just here to kick ass, take names, and it's not taking itself too seriously. And I feel like if you're gonna watch this show thinking that it's gonna have a really cool premise and that there's gonna be a plot going to it, don't expect that at all for High School of the Dead. Instead, just expect a lot of like fight, choreographic, fan servicey scenes that are just so big and ingrained to the show. Again, there is a pretty massive clip in High School of the Dead to this day that's super synonymous to what makes the show special. I don't even know if I can pop it up on here at all for obvious reasons, but it involves these two characters and they're in a pretty weird weird position where they're shooting and it's like boob matrix per se with the bullets and such. It's really weird. It's really stupid. But again, if you look at like the posters and the pictures as I'm scrolling down here right now, there's some pretty there should be some scenes here that should probably like ring a bell to anyone who has watched High School of the Dead or have even maybe considered watching High School of the Dead. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Like I said, this show has really spawned a lot of copycats since then, but a lot of them haven't hit the same extent of popularity and infamy as High School of the Dead. So because well, I guess to put it in a nutshell, this show really had everything going for it, and really to me was the balance of like giving you just nothing but fan service, but also giving you like the best raunchy action pack and to an extent drama that is like really over the top, really stupid, and at times can be like really fun bad to an extent. And of course, it's a pretty damn shame that now in the current day and age of anime, this kind of source is kind of not felt in a way in a lot of the modern animes that kind of go in this direction. Even a lot of the zombie apocalyptic animes that's out there that has been adapted after High School did, to me, doesn't hit the same feeling of like holy shit, this show is iconic for a reason. And case in point, we did have shows similar to this that kind of hit the same way at like years after High School of the Dead with the shows like Prison School, which I just talked about not too long ago, that kind of fell in that similar vein. And then we have shows like Zombie 100, which came out a couple years ago, which really did capture the image of like a really pure nuts to butts zombie apocalyptic type of anime, while sometimes giving us some really good gorgeous animation and some characters to boot for. But it felt like it wasn't enough to push people and convince them like, oh yeah, I actually want to watch this show or continue reading the manga. And then we have shows that are like really obscure, really weird in the zombie apocalyptic type of anime with Night of the Living Cat, which is currently airing right now as I'm recording this video. Um, 3 episodes in, and this show is without doubt one of the weirdest shows I've seen so far this year, and I can't wait to talk about it once the show is officially over. But to wrap up my High School of the Dead reflection video, this anime is undoubtedly a must watch for not only fan service, fun, bad anime connoisseurs like myself, but this is a show that has been ingrained in a lot of mainstream anime that you pretty much have seen and you can literally tell to this day in modern animes. Again, the 3 animes that I just gave off right now may not represent High School of the Dead's legacies all too well, but like I said, it's really hard now for me to pinpoint a show that hit this well, that had such a strong impact when it first came out, still is still being talked about to this day. That's kind of to an extent similar to like what happened with Elfen Light's ending or School Days' ending. But High School of the Dead is just a show that is just one of a kind, really unique, and if you're just the type of person that essentially just wants to watch nothing but action, fan service, and matrix filling moments of a show, this is the show that's essential for you. And believe me, I've heard tons of people and my friends like that said that, oh yeah, the reason I got to watching anime in the first place was because of this show. And I'm not even joking. Like screw Death Note, screw other anime shows that really are like the starter animes that are known. High School of the Dead is like the go-to anime. Like, hey, I got into anime in the first place because of High School of the Dead, and that shit is so goddamn respectable because like again, this show has really made an impact on anime itself. So yeah, just want to talk about and reflect on High School of the Dead because it's been in the back of my mind for a while now after talking about Prison School, and I feel like you know what, I'm gonna let this one rip and see what everyone thinks if High School of the Dead is still impactful or still talked about to this day. And yeah, just want to talk about it. I'll see you all in the next one. Later.